The next game I played for my bucket list is the game ABZU, which is a game that I've been wanting to play basically since I learned it existed. It was teased in a Game Informer magazine way back in the day, and at the time only being on next-gen consoles, which I didn't have, so I'm like, one day I'm going to play ABZU. Then it was kind of the dry season of Nintendo this year, where Princess Peach Showtime had just come out. The only other games that we knew were on the horizon were Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door and the Luigi's Mansion 2 remaster. And the only game that Nintendo had to really be like, hey, play this game right now, was the Princess Peach Showtime game and Luminous Ocean. Luminous Ocean looked interesting enough, but we don't see anybody really talking about it, and I don't think it really made the splash that Nintendo was trying to make. So when that was like the main game that was out at the time, I said, hey, I got this bucket list project going. I've always wanted to play a different diving game, a little game called ABZU. So I was like, is it on the eShop? I've never even bothered to look for it there. As it so turns out, it absolutely is. And so I played ABZU. It's a very short game. I was able to finish it in 2 sittings. It maybe took like 4 hours total. And it's the brevity of the game and also the very gameplay light. You're just moving through this dreamlike world. In all those ways, it reminded me a lot of the game Journey. I basically called it Underwater Journey. And I just loved it. It was like exploring underwater in my dreams. And sometimes that dream was a nightmare too, because there was some truly foreboding sections as well in the game. Really beautiful, well-crafted world. My favorite sea creature ever is the manta ray. And at the 14-minute mark, you get to see your first manta ray. And it's really awesome, and I was immediately hooked on the game because of that. You get to ride on certain sea creatures if they're big enough, which in real life you can never ride a manta ray because it's not good for them. But that was a bit of wish fulfillment too, being able to hop on the back of a manta ray and just swim around in the ocean. That whole section was pretty short-lived though. You can't really keep any one sea creature throughout the duration of the game. There's like these hard cutoff points where you go into these little caves and you leave behind any sea creatures you encountered along the way. So I had to pretty quickly abandon the manta ray almost as soon as I met him. And that was kind of sad. I was really hoping to play with manta rays for the entirety of the game, admittedly. But the little journey this game crafts and all the little creatures you get to meet along the way and ride on, that was super fun and cool. There's some really nice on-rails sections where you'll get into this underwater cave and there's a big underwater current that takes you, and at that point, you're not controlling your character at all. You're just moving the camera around and appreciating all the beautiful scenery that the game has put out in front of you. There's segments like these in Journey as well, and here it felt even more appropriate because underwater currents are a thing. And whenever you did, you'd be surrounded by a bunch of sea turtles, like that scene in Finding Nemo, or something else like that, going through these beautiful underwater caves and coral reefs. It was a short adventure, but they packed in a lot of really beautiful imagery for you to enjoy along the way. I like getting to swim with the various schools of fish through those on-rail segments. There's a shark jump scare pretty early in the game that upset me. I'm not a big jump scare person in general, and I'm not a huge fan of media that villainizes great white sharks either. After Jaws, I think, like we have our shark movie. Let's stop making shark movies where they're the villains. Sharks are actually really cool, and I think great whites especially get a lot of hate in the media. But the game kind of redeems this shark. At first it like jump scares you and is framed as this monstrous presence in the ocean. But then as you start encountering more technology underwater and you see more of a human man-made presence, you realize that the shark is also a victim in this scenario and is actually a pretty cool guy. So the game does redeem itself and the shark by being like, hey, you thought it was scary, But actually this shark is your bro, and by the end of the game, the last animal that you ride that's very significant is the great white shark, so that's pretty awesome. I didn't expect the kind of Portal meets Star Wars vibes in this game. About an hour in, you start seeing traces of humanity and this old science fiction technology, and you start to realize that there's this beautiful underwater landscape that you have the privilege to explore has been kind of colonized in a way by all this technology in the past. It's still there, but there's no one actively running it, basically. So it's got that post-apocalyptic feel to it as well because of it. There was a lot of segments. I say this is like Portal meets Death Star because a lot of the technology and how the doors function remind me a lot of Portal, but then there's like these interior segments that you're going through, and it reminds me of flying through the Death Star in episode 6 of Star Wars. It feels very much like Incomplete Death Star, but it's underwater. The game is educational. There's meditation statues where you'll sit on the statue. The statue, by the way, is of a great white shark, so he's something of a deity down here before the humans gave him a bad rep. But you meditate on the little great white shark statue, and you get to look at all the given sea creatures in this area of the game that you're in, and it tells you what their name is. So it's got light educational elements to it. This game reminded me that the Ray from Finding Nemo that all the fish ride on, he's basically the school bus for the school of fish. That character, he's blue with white spots. The name of that sea animal is called Eagle Ray. It's an eagle ray, and I just think that's a badass name. It sounds like some rock star from the 80s, a la Elton John or Billy Idol. Eagle Ray goes hard. Fuck. I just recorded all of that on the camera audio, and I just turned on that silly little mic. I freaking paused recording and forgot to turn that on, and I don't even have my shotgun mic on there. I'm not gonna re-record. In this game, apparently water underwater exists, similar to SpongeBob physics. There's lots of underwater temples that you get to swim through. My favorite was the one that looked like a Roman bathhouse. The game really allows you to get sucked in because it takes this indirect storytelling, very Journey-esque in that way. And then at the end, the storytelling becomes much more direct. The lore becomes less in the background and more, it's explicitly telling you what's going down. The game is super well paced, no section ever overstays its welcome, and if you wanted to blast right through, basically how much time you spend in a certain area is up to you, how much you want to bask in the scenery around you. And yeah, like I said before, I finished the game in 2 sittings, just 4 hours. It was a very easy game to get through, and I really liked it a lot. It was super worth all of the hype I had put in my own head for it. I really just wanted to see the manta rays in this game, and they did not disappoint. They did not disappoint. Last up, we're going to talk about Link's Awakening.